Those are secondary reasons, right? I can't, for having that as a primary reason is very difficult. All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala sayyidil anbiya wa mursaleen, nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. So alhamdulillah, we are in the next section now in Kitab Urub al-Muhlikat, or the fourth quarter or the next quarter of the Iḥyā. Iḥyā is split into four parts, right? Iḥyā is split into four parts. We are in the third section. We've started the third section, and walillah alhamd, we are about halfway through. We're about halfway through through this ruba, or through this quarter. So introduction. Basically, Imam Ghazāli, he starts off this entire section, seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, and then sending the salat wa salam ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he talks about that basically in this whole introduction, and one of the things that he actually makes dua for is how one of the things we are going to be tested with is our anger. And he talks about why that's so important, some of the ways to deal with it. And he's actually going to get into some of the chapter headings and some of the things to do and to deal with anger in and of itself and why it's such a problem. So here he describes it in an interesting way. So he says, anger is an ember taken from Allah's kindled fire, which reaches the hearts. So here he has brought this metaphor to tell us that anger is very much like a fire. And it's interesting how he uses fire as the metaphor, because the fire is generally used to consume, right? It's used to consume and it's used to destroy. This fire is similar to the rocks under ashes, fed by arrogance, buried deep within the heart of the stubborn oppressor. Meaning that this is something that is very deep rooted and it's deeply embedded in the hearts of into all of our hearts, and how we deal with it and how we channel it is something that's important. And he says here, just as a rock is used to spark fire from iron, the seeker will expose these shortcomings with the light of belief and certainty. So just like when you strike a rock, right, you get that spark. He's saying here that hopefully with this book and with these techniques, we'll have some sparks that will give us some insight on how to deal with anger, how to deal with rancor, how to deal with jealousy. I said man will bring rise to the accursed shaitan whenever his anger flares. So here again, he likens anger to fire, and he brings the fire as a likeness to shaitan, meaning that all of these things come up. When the anger comes up, the shaitan also rises. The more it flares, the closer he draws to shaitan, as he says, خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ, that you made me from fire and you made him from clay. And he's talking about the nature of that being, which gives us a little bit of insight into the jinn. So if we know that the jinn are created from fire, we would assume that they are more angry, right? They get more angry, they're more emotional, they have less control. And this also, it would be supported by the angels when they said that, why are you creating someone who will what? Spread mischief and bloodshed. And why is mischief and bloodshed usually spread, right? Usually because of anger and because of this lack of control of emotion. Here, the essential property of clay is peace and tranquility. So he's bringing the opposite now. So he's saying, well, if fire is meant to be this way, he said clay is different, right? It is functionally different from that. Fire is burnt to burn and ignite, movement and instability. So fire is constantly moving, it's constantly waving, it's unstable, versus clay. Like, if you just put a piece of clay on a table, where's it going to go? Nowhere, right? It's just going to stay. It's just going to stay right there. Versus if you placed a fire, then what's going to happen to the fire? The fire is going to spread, it's going to consume, and it's going to grow. From the results of anger are rancor and envy. So basically, he says here that anger is the root of all of these problems. The anger is the root issue of these things, and it is actually from anger that rancor and envy come, both of which destroy and corrupt an individual. And the piece of flesh that can escape these two ills is the upright one, which in turn brings uprightness to the entire body. What piece of flesh is he talking about? He's talking about the qalb, right? He's talking about the heart. If rancor, envy, and anger are those which drag a slave to everlasting punishment, then how much in need of knowing how to break and destroy them are we, so that we are to know what to stay away from and avoid shifting it out of our hearts in order to purify it. Rancor is like, it's a type of like a deep-seated anger. No, so over here, if I translated these, this would be, over here, this is ghadab, hiqd, and hasad. Okay. Then he closes by saying the importance of treating and curing it is as if that's settled in our hearts. The one who does not know evil will easily fall into it. Whoever knows it, then just knowing it is not enough. So even here he's saying it's not just knowing it is enough for that, but knowing how to repel and distance oneself from it. So not only is it that you have to know it, but you actually need to know the techniques to keep it away from you. And he says we will discuss the harms of anger and an exposition on the faults of rancor and jealousy in this book under the heading of harms of anger. So that will be the next chapter, right? So that'll be the next section, which he will discuss and talk about. The reality of anger. Anger, is it possible to remove it permanently with discipline or not? Then the ways that anger is provoked. Then treating anger after it has been ignited. Then an exposition of the virtue of restraining anger, an exposition of the virtue of forbearance, an exposition of the reasonable amount of speech an individual can use to win an argument or make a point. Again, all of these are ways to control our expression and ways to control how we channel this emotion. An exposition of the meaning of jealousy and its resultant harms, the virtue of forgiveness and kindness. So it's interesting how he does this binary, right? So he'll talk about the problem with one, and then he'll talk about the solution with another. An exposition of harms of jealousy, its reality, reasons, and cures, and the amount of effort required in removing it. So here you'll find different chapters in how to actually remove these things and clean the heart from these problems and from these issues. An exposition of the reasons for jealousy being so rife between equals, peers, brothers, paternal cousins, and its reinforcement, and the reason it is lacking other than them. Whose kids are these? I'm curious. I'm curious. There's no play area here. So what are they doing? So, anyway, the medicine that is useful against the ills of jealousy in the heart, and the amount of effort required in removing jealousy from the heart. What are some themes that you guys are picking up here? And what are some of the things that he's talking about to help us? That's a good way. Let me.
Sort of anger and jealousy being closely related.
Okay, the relationship between anger and jealousy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right there. So here, rancor, bitterness, or resentfulness, especially when long-standing. Does that help?
It's kind of like hatred.
It's kind of like hatred. So the relationship between them, there are actually methods to remove these things. But when we talk about removal, is it possible to remove feelings? And so, but based on what he's telling us, are there certain techniques when he talks about removing them? What do you guys think he's going to say, or what is he going to talk about? Controlling them, right? So even though the word remove is used, remove meaning the negative elements of it. So are there situations where anger is appropriate?
Yes.
Like what?
Battles.
You're doing battles. I'm sorry. All right, justice, right? If I see an injustice happening, then I should hopefully get angry, right? If I hear somebody cursing the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm going to get angry. If I hear someone cursing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or my parents or my friends, I'm going to get angry, right? These are very, not only is this a natural reaction, this is actually a positive one, because if I'm not feeling those things, right? If I just remove anger completely from my heart, then this is actually a bigger problem. There's a shortcoming in my iman, right? There's a shortcoming in my iman that these things are not even triggering a response in me. And the accountability is where, and this is something I think we've touched on and spoken about before. Right, in the response, it's the problem isn't the anger in and of itself. The problem is in many times how it's channeled. But this bitterness and the jealousy, what do you guys think? Is there a positive point where these things can come in, or that you guys can think of? Okay, sure.
There's the ghibta, where you like what someone has, but you wish well for them, and you wish you had something like that.
Okay, good.
Jealousy is when you see someone that has something and you wish he didn't have it and you had it.
Yeah, this type of jealousy, when you want to remove something from someone, this is the disparate, like envy, right? This is the extremely problematic. But if someone has something and you wish you had similar to it, this is right. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Because you don't want to hurt the other person, right? You don't want to hurt the other person. And is there any other space or place that jealousy would be appropriate?
Oh, like ghira?
Like ghira, like between spouse, not just between spouses, like over our honor, right? I'm jealous over protecting my honor. I'm jealous over protecting the honor of my family. You know what I mean? Like I'm jealous of protecting the honor of my religion. These type of this protective jealousy is something that is praiseworthy, and it's something that again we should all have.
Isn't there a hadith of places that's like the color of the religion is ghira?
I don't know.
Maybe not color.
Allah, I don't know. Let me know what you find. Yeah. So there are applicable situations. Play bitterness. What do you guys think about that? Rancor, just bitterness, very deep, like a deep-seated.
Stuck on protective jealousy. I've just never heard the two together like that.
Sure.
So, could you expand on that a bit?
Sure. If somebody hit on your wife, how would you feel?
Oh yeah. Okay. Protective. Yeah.
Like, I mean, just very honestly.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, right. No, I'm saying like, so the thing is, before even saying anything, what's going to happen?
Oh yeah, I'm not
All is right. Yeah.
It wasn't hadith, it was a saying of it.
Okay. So this idea of having this protective, or if someone starts making fun of your friend in front of you, what are you going to do? Are you going to tolerate it? No, right? Immediately that protective jealousy is going to kick in.
It depends whether like all of us have thick skin or not.
Just a stranger, just a guy walking by. He's like, "Oh, you look like trash," right? No, and I'm saying like, and it's not. I'm not even talking about the response. Like, put the response to the side. But as a friend, immediately, what is the first emotion or the first response that you have? Right, you want to protect your friend. Like, it's like, nah, man, like that's not cool. Like, I'm not going to tolerate that. So this protective jealousy is something that's good. Hey, what about being bitter? Okay, so is that good? Is there a situation where it's good? Like we had said, anger, there are situations where it applies and it's positive. Jealousy, there are situations where it applies and it's positive. Hey, what about bitterness?
Like injustice situations, it's less anger and more just it's between dissatisfaction and anger. That's what bitterness is.
So bitterness, what is the difference between being bitter and being angry?
There's no you don't like it, but it's not necessarily emotional. You don't like it, but it's not necessarily emotional.
Okay. Huh.
Bitterness.
There's a timeline associated with it, right? There's a timeline associated with it. When I'm bitter about something, it's going to be what? Or for a long period of time, right? It's something that I'm really going to sit on. And in general, sitting on feelings it's not a good idea, right? It's not good for your heart. It's not good for you as a person. So. But all of these things are going to hurt us for sure. So, but again, this idea of sitting on feelings for long periods of time, it's usually a really bad idea, right? These are things that lead to that leads to frustrations, it leads to other types of issues, it leads to bad choices. Why? Because the moment that we don't express ourselves, then those emotions, what happens to them? Right. So they kind of build up, right? They just kind of, it's like, okay, well, a little bit of bitterness here, a little bit of jealousy there, anger, a little bit of sadness. And you just kind of start yeah, exactly. So you start balling all these things up. And then all of a sudden, like the guy gives you the wrong flavored coffee and like you end up throwing it in his face, right? Like him. So why did you do that? Because you're really angry at the coffee guy? No, right? It was just all of this emotion. It's like Americano, right? It's like, so like you have all of these feelings that they become misdirected and they are channeled in a way that's not healthy, right? And this is why it's important to very, very often either immerse ourselves and allow ourselves to feel the emotion, to express ourselves, whatever the case might be. And it might not be a full expression of that, but saying something like, wow, this really makes me happy, right? It sounds corny, but at the end of the day, just that is enough for me to channel my happiness, or I don't appreciate that you said that, right? It's enough for me to channel my anger, whatever the case might be. It might not be the way I really want to do it, right? So if someone says something, I might want to punch the guy in the face, right? Like this is what I feel inside. But if I say to them like, yeah, I didn't really like that you said that, right? This is not the way I wanted to, but I still had the opportunity to express. And this is something that's really important. And you'll find this with a lot of these things, like a lot of the stuff that he talks about, like treating anger after it's been ignited. And I like really love this metaphor, right? This idea of anger and fire, what I mean? It's just so appropriate because of how consuming it is.
And also the benefit of worship, like a fire can also be used to cook food.
Absolutely. Like if it's channeled and controlled.
Yeah.
Like all of these things are extremely, extremely important for us to keep in mind when we talk about this, because it's a feeling amongst other feelings, and there's no wrong feeling, right? There's no such thing as a wrong feeling. It might not be appropriate, right? So if I'm feeling giddy at a funeral, right, or if I'm feeling sad at a wedding, it's not an appropriate feeling, but is it a wrong one? No, because there's no such thing, right? There's no such thing as a wrong feeling. But that's it. This is just the introduction. Inshallah, next time we're going to talk about the harms of anger, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But we'll stop here.
I mean, if you have unequal power, like unequal relationship, like say it's a boss and an employer,
Yeah.
and you're holding anger, that person, that employee might not feel they can ever say, I don't like what you did.
Sure. So what happens in such situations? Right, and then then you have like the postman. You know what I mean? Like you have all these situations. If I am in a work environment where I don't feel like, if there's no channel for expression, the person won't last that long.
What if they had high pain tolerance?
And that's fine, right? Everybody has their own tolerance, but at the end of the day, that tolerance level will be, you'll reach it. So the thing is, you might have one person. Why are there people who, when they don't receive one paycheck, will stop coming to work? Yes. And there are people who will wait 6 months and they'll still be coming to work. Yes or no? You understand why? Because we all have individual tolerances. I'm sorry, was I interrupting? No. Okay. So the thing is, we all have our own tolerances, and that's fine. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, because the thing is that person who has like 6 months of tolerance, maybe after 3 months he gets paid, right? And the person who didn't even have a single moment of tolerance, it's okay. It's because we're all different. Like, we're all different people. We all have different tolerance levels. The important thing is understanding the situations that we're going through and making sure that we're channeling them appropriately. Any other questions?
They have to be related to something.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, can you explain al-wala?
That's okay. So wala wal bara is loyalties. Very, very summarily. It's loyalties. And how do I determine loyalties Islamically? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And if you help a mushrik, you're a mushrik, right? No, so
If you're not sure,
you're right. If you're not sure, then you're also mushrik. So no, loyalties. It's a very natural phenomenon. So when we talk about wala wal bara, it's a natural phenomenon in the sense that anybody who aids me and supports me is my what? Is my friend and is my helper. Anybody who takes a neutral stance toward me is neutral, and anybody who's actively working against me is my enemy, right? And that's all it is. And the thing is, a lot of people, they'll say, in general, my allegiances should be more toward which group of people? Toward Muslims. What if this Muslim is harmful and oppressive and hurting me? No, right? Then I'm not going to ally myself with him. And that's all it is, man. This issue of wala wal bara has become so conflated, and it's been used as a political tool by certain people in order to help them define and distinguish like who's upon the right path and who's upon the wrong path. When the reality is, wala wal bara is an individual. It's an individual thing. This is not a communal thing that's happening. In general, again, we all understand this. Why am I naturally going to be more allied with Muslims? Why?
it's a human nature.
Not just human nature. I'm more in line with their thought, right? More often than not, we're going to agree on things. Why? Because we share the same belief system, right? We share all these things. Like, prayer is not going to be a problem with the Muslim. Giving zakat is not going to be a problem with the Muslim. Making hajj is not going to be a problem with the Muslim. Like, will I have the same level of understanding with a non-Muslim? No. A doctor. When I go to a doctor, do I have to choose a Muslim one, or can I choose a non-Muslim one? Does it matter? It depends on what. I'm with you 100%, but let's see competence. I want, yeah. Go ahead.
That's number one. In general, just like as anyone who's like public, like people can tell you're Muslim. You walk in, you see people's faces, and depending on the expression, the expression, you either go or walk out.
Well, but that's fine. That's, again, that boils down to your own personal tolerance, right? because there are some people who their character is such, they don't care how people are looking at them. They're going to sit there anyway. And there are some people who are going, and I'll just give just one example, inshallah, and then I'll let you continue. I've walked into restaurants where the cook has come and he's made a mistake, right? The waiter made a mistake. He brought something, like he might have put like ham or something on that. So in general, usually what do? I'd be like, well, I didn't order this, can you please go fix it? There was one sister who said that, and she was like, I had the Spanish waiter, he came and he put ham on my food because he was targeting me knowing that I was Muslim. The same situation, you understand? Like you have the Spanish waiter brought me food and the Spanish waiter brought her food, but for her, it became what? It became an issue of being targeted. And it became an issue of, because I am such and such, that this person was looking at me and such and such. But for me, it was an honest mistake. He's like, this guy doesn't even know English, let alone Islam. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm less worried about that. But this is a perspective, tolerance, understanding. People will deal with different situations, even based on their own prejudices and backgrounds, right? So if I grew up in a place where everybody made fun of me because of my religion, and it's predominantly white, for example, then I am going to, when I grow up, I'm going to avoid what? Predominantly white areas or white people. No, and I'm saying, like, no, I have a white friend, alhamdulillah. So like, I'm not. You got triggered. Yeah. So no. But I'm saying, is it microaggression? No, this is a macroaggression, bro. So anyway, this is like. So we have to understand, like, we are all a summary of our experiences, right? And there are certain things that, and not in addition to that, we all have our own personal tolerances.
I mean, I guess for social situations, they're not that high of a risk. I think that's a cost-benefit analysis.
Sure.
In a healthcare setting, I don't want to end up having a medical mistake, knowing how the legal teams of hospitals function and things like that, knowing I'll never win. So I go all the way, I'm done. I'll cut it off right here and then just check the names and then walk out.
Sure, that's fine. And someone might respond to you and be like, well, I find that a premature judgment call. And again, it doesn't mean it's wrong or right, right? There's no right or wrong in this. It's just that everybody's going to deal with those individual situations in different ways. But going back, like, and this is a part of those natural loyalties that we have, right? If I walk into a space and I feel uncomfortable, I have every right to what? To walk out, to leave. I don't have to force myself to be. I don't have to force myself to be in that situation. I'm sorry. Yeah, just cause chaos first, right? That's something that's really important. So, like, all of these things, it's important to keep them in mind. Like, it was before this like fanatical idea of what it was twisted into. It's a very natural thing, right? It's not something that requires a lot of in-depth understanding of. It's just like, okay, well, people who support me, okay, these are the people I'm going to align with. People who are neutral, there's still space for me to figure out how much I can work with them. And people who are openly, like, show animus against me, I'm going to what? I'm going to distance myself from them. Yes.
So like a lot of businesses that are Muslim run, and like I work in businesses Muslim run.
Yeah.
You get Muslim customers.
May Allah make it easy for you.
They want to, like, they want a discount because they're Muslim.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that so much, Akhi. But the thing is, their problem is from two angles, right? The problem is from two angles. You usually, like with inter-Muslim business dealings, you have layers of issues. The first of them is that the Muslim customer, his expectations from the Muslim business is that what? He gets preferential treatment and he gets the lowest price possible, right? To the point that he's willing to oppress the Muslim business owner and say that to the point that, okay, you're losing. Okay, you bought this for $5, then you should sell it to me for $4, right? And from the business owner, what is their problem? Huh? Not just poor service, right? So they're like, because they want preferential treatment too, because I have a Muslim customer, he should be more tolerant and he should be more understanding. And if I don't keep my stores clean, or if I only take cash, we're Muslims, we should support each other. And it's a really toxic relationship. It's a really toxic relationship. When the relationship, I feel, and obviously you guys are free to disagree, is I agree with those, that it should be based on what? Competence. That's it. You want my business, then offer a good service. And I don't care if you're Muslim or not. I'm not going to support you just because you're Muslim. And this is me. There are some people be like, no, I only go to Muslim business, which is cool. May Allah bless you and increase you. That's great. I don't have a problem with that. Me personally, I'm going to go for the more competent one. Why? Because as a Muslim, you should be more competent, right? Like essentially, like from the starting point, you should be more competent. And if you want my business, offer a better service. And every time, has there ever been a failure in offering better service? No, no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
It goes back to the example with the doctor as a female
Mhm.
wearing hijab.
Yeah.
I will prefer a female, number one,
Yeah,
and a Muslim.
sure.
So when you talk about competence.
Is it an
yes,
emergency?
You have, was the example the emergency?
Is it an emergency?
No, this is just general, yeah.
Yeah, it's general.
Yeah.
In general, I
Sure.
would prefer a female.
Sure.
Number one, because when I lived in
Mm.
Nebraska, I didn't have a Muslim doctor.
Yeah.
So you prefer a female. And then when I came here and you have the choice, yes, you want competent, but I also want
Yeah.
Muslim.
No,
So I will do my homework.
which is cool. Like I said, for everyone to have,
Emergency, I don't- I
yeah,
don't
you don't have a choice. Yeah. So because the thing, everybody will have their own filtration system. All right. Everyone will filter through and make their own decisions, and they'll figure out how it is that I want to choose a particular service. There's no wrong answer, right? There's no wrong answer. So I would say that an individual should determine their own criteria and how they want to go forward. Now for me, my criteria is usually as long he's male and he's competent, right? That's all it is for me. Some people it's not like that, but sometimes you don't have a choice, right?
Is this the same gender? Is that like obligation?
No, it's not actually. It's not. Why? Because there are a number of factors that become mixed in when you talk about, okay, why is it okay for me? It depends, number one, on the service, right? It depends on the service. So previously I had an internist, and interestingly, not only, so my PCP was Muslim, but she was female. Why? Because I didn't have access, like it was difficult for me to find anyone else. Insurance plans are very regulatory. It's difficult to figure out who's going to cover and who's not going to cover. But saying that, every time there was a more intrusive exam, she wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right? So it would be like a male nurse who would come in, for example. So it really depends. You can find exceptions to all of these things. There are certain doctors I wouldn't care, right? Is it male or female? If, for example, if I had a therapist, it wouldn't make a difference to me if it's male or female. Or if it was like ENT, like ear, nose, throat, it wouldn't make a difference to me if it was male or female. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, as long as it's not completely private, right? So meaning that there's a window, or if you ask to keep the door, because even corporate culture is changing now. So if you ask to keep the door a little bit open, for me, a lot of those things we have to realize, even within the doctor profession or the therapy profession or whatever the case might be, there are tiers of people. There's some people who are they're in that field and they're completely like they're idiots. And those are the people. I don't care you're Muslim or not. If you are incompetent, I don't want you, right? I don't. And even looking for therapists, sometimes there are certain fields that are just dominated by one gender. What do you do? Like in the therapy field, it's almost dominated by females. Like there are a few males, but it's predominantly female. Education, predominantly female. You know what I mean? Like there are just certain things. A nurse, right? Requesting a male nurse, it can be challenging sometimes because there are so few of them. So there are a lot of logistic issues that do come into play. Their preferences, we should always put them out there, right? As Muslims, we have our line, and there's certain things we have a preference for those things, and I think those preferences should be put out there. But at the end of the day, if there's a gender preference or a competence preference, my personal thing is always going to lean toward more competence. Any other questions? No, I'll see you guys next week, inshallah. Yeah. If everybody could just please put their chair away before they leave.